Don Calamari. Yes, I have received the package. It will be taken care of today, Don Calamari.
And action!
Portable fire extinguishing equipment. Okay, fire extinguishing requirements can be broken down into two tables. One for vessels up to 65 feet and another one for vessels 65 feet and over. Essentially, for vessels under 65 feet, it's broken down into three parts. For vessels up to 26 feet, they have to have at least one 5B fire extinguisher. For vessels up to 40 feet, they have to have at least two 5B portable fire extinguishers. And for vessels up to 65 feet, they have to have at least three 5B fire extinguishers. When it gets over 65 feet, then we go by compartment. You have a table in your job aid, and what we do is we go into each compartment, determine what type of compartment it is, and look up the specific requirements for that compartment.
Hello, Tiny Coasty speaking.
Hey, Mr. Tiny Coasty. This is Don Calamari's secretary. Hey, I just want to let you know, whatever you do, don't go to lunch with Nanny today, or you'll be sorry. Goodbye.
Oh no, it's Friday today, and he always invites me out for lunch because they serve fish on Fridays. I gotta figure some way of getting out of this.
So here we have the table for commercial fishing vessels up to 65 feet. Now notice it says the requirement is reduced by one when they have a fixed fire extinguishing system. For our case, we only count CO2 systems. Many commercial fishing vessels will have Fireboy or Halon replacements, which is fine. They can have those, and often it's required by their insurance, but we don't count that towards the overall portable fire extinguisher requirement because only fixed CO2 systems count on commercial fishing vessels. So as you can see, up to 26 feet, one 5B, 26 to 40, two 5Bs, and 40 and over, three 5Bs. You would think, like in the old days where you could have a B2 replace two B1s, well, you cannot use a 10B to replace two 5Bs. If you want to replace two 5Bs, then you have to use a minimum of a 20B rated fire extinguisher. And again, this requirement here in 46 CFR Part 25, you don't need to worry about because the table for vessels over 65 feet in Part 28 of 46 CFR for commercial fishing vessels exceeds this, so you don't need to worry about this. And here's the table. So again, you go into the compartment and then you look it up. And for example, we have a pilot house here, and it says we have to have 2 in the vicinity of the exit, and they have to be rated 20 BC. If we're in, let's say, the galley, for every 2,500 square feet, and that would be like a cruise ship, so generally just 1, they would need a 40 BC fire extinguisher. As always, fire extinguishers need to be approved for marine use, and they generally are. The difference between a marine and non-marine fire extinguisher is actually the bracket. The bracket on the marine fire extinguisher is designed to keep it from swinging around. Whereas on shore, you could have these fire extinguishers that are just sitting up on a hook. On a boat, that wouldn't work because as the boat rocks back and forth, it could jump off the hook there and then end up being a missile. Additionally, now all non-disposable fire extinguishers have to be tagged every year by a certified state-approved fire extinguisher servicing company. The only exemption from this is when it's brand new, and in those cases, we make them show us a receipt. Generally, what we have found that sometimes it costs more to service them than it does to buy a new one, so many commercial fishermen are actually going out and just buying new fire extinguishers. Now, if you're ever unsure, just look on the label and you'll see for the particular type of fire extinguisher, it'll tell you U.S. Coast Guard approval number, valid only with bracket part number so-and-so. And of course, that will be a marine bracket. So if it's not in a marine bracket, it's not an approved installation. Now, in the disposable type, the standard is different. These can be maintained on board without having to have them serviced by a state-approved facility for up to 12 years from date of manufacture. You can tell the disposable type very easily by just looking at the head. 9 times out of 10, it's made out of plastic. And then when you look at the gauge, you'll notice underneath in the writing they have on the gauge there, it says discard or replace. Where if it's a rechargeable type fire extinguisher that requires annual servicing, it'll say recharge. And it'll actually tell you on the label, this product must be removed from service 12 years after date of manufacturing per NFPA 10.4-4.3. Year of manufacture located on the bottom of the cylinder. And then when you look on the bottom of the cylinder, you'll see that it has a year of manufacture stamped on it. This particular one was manufactured in 2004. So guess what? It's more than 12 years old. So this would have to be removed from the boat. And again, these do not require an annual service tag. The owner operator can check these out themselves and make sure that they're still serviceable. Here we have a 20B fire extinguisher. Again, it has to have a current service tag like this one has on there. And again, these tags are good for 1 year. Here we have another one. This is a 10B. Notice the little bracket on there that keeps it from swinging around when it's properly installed. So if you see one on this type of bracket, which is a shoreside bracket, that's not acceptable. It will not keep the fire extinguisher from swinging around underway and possibly falling off and becoming a missile hazard. CO2 types, notice they don't have a gauge. Those have to have an annual service tag. Now, the crew can weigh it every 6 months as required and tag it themselves, but the annual service tag has to be by an approved facility. Additionally, these have to be hydro tested every 5 years. The hydro test will be stamped on the neck of the fire extinguisher. If you run across any of these stainless steel type fire extinguishers, those are not acceptable for marine use. They're subject to crevice corrosion and therefore not reliable. Again, you have these pre-engineered fire extinguishing systems. However, they don't take the place of a CO2 system. So they can have these, they just don't count towards their requirement. And typically, they don't service these regularly. And there's also other requirements. Each one of these fixed halon type systems or halon replacements are designed for a specific cubic feet of space. A lot of times these guys, they just go out to the store, buy one and install it, and they feel they've met their insurance requirement. However, we don't consider these as part of the minimum requirements. They're considered as excess equipment, and as excess equipment, they have to be maintained. So here's what a CO2 system looks like. So that's why you virtually never see a CO2 system on commercial fishing vessels, because with all these cylinders that have to be pulled out and weighed and bells and whistles, all the requirements to maintain the system, it's just a lot easier to just go out and buy a B40 fire extinguisher. So on this vessel, what would we want to see? It's on the bridge, right? So we looked up the table previously. So you need to have 2 in the vicinity of the exits, right? And they have to be rated 20 BC. This is a galley, so what would you be required to have here? A 40 BC. And again, look on the label and it'll tell you what the rating is. This is the engine room, so the minimum requirement you have here is what? 2, right? In our AOR, it's virtually always going to be 2 because you don't make a lot of money by spending a lot of fuel. So even some of our biggest boats in our AOR pushing close to 200 gross tons, guess what? They have less than 1,000 horsepower. Typically, it's always going to be 2 40 BC fire extinguishers.
Oh no, it's almost lunchtime. Think, Tiny Coastie, think. How are we going to get out of this? I know what I can do. Can't chicken out now. Gotta go through with this.
Okay, moving on. What are you doing there? Quit playing with that. You know that thing can go off accidentally. What is wrong with you? Didn't I tell you to be careful with that? You know, I've had it with you today. You know what? I'm going to lunch and you are not invited.
I'm starting to think I shouldn't have done this. Oh no. There's Don Calamari's hitman, bad guy. I can't bear to look.
Look, what do we have here? A lucky penny.
I want a fishing vessel examiner to sleep with the fishes. But Don Calamari, he has been mean to me. He's been very, very mean to me.
I will not do it, but I will make sure he gets purged.
Fishing vessel examiner to sleep with the fishes.
Hey, I'm back.
I thought you were,
Oh, you mean, am I still mad? I sort of cooled off. But I'll tell you what, you missed a great lunch. We had fish tacos with some fresh halibut. I did think of you, however. They did have an option for pizza with anchovies, so while nobody was looking, guess what? I got an anchovy for you. I know you're always worried about your weight and the weight program and all that other business, so I figure you're on a keto diet, so this ought to work just fine for you. Here you go. And you know, the funniest thing happened when I was on my way to the galley. I thought I saw a drone flying around. Then I heard this big explosion, then what looked like a garbage can on fire way down at the end of the base. Funny thing, huh? Hey, you know, let's call it a day. I think we've done enough for today. Let's wrap up and just go home.
I don't want your smelly fish. And another thing, I'm the director around here. I'm the one who decides if we're going home or not. I'm in charge. Boy, he can really get under my skin sometimes. But I'm so happy that he's okay.